People's Platform.
Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of the People's Platform. Joining us this evening on the People's Platform is Professor Aashani Tillekeratne. She is the chair for the Committee on Popularization of Science at the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. A very good evening, Professor Tillekeratne, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Shalan. Thank you.
Professor Tillekeratne, now when we speak about the advancement of science, research and development, the field of science, it's of course got a lot of potential. But here in Sri Lanka, when you speak about popularizing the subject of science, mainly among school children, am I right to presume that?
Yes.
So when we speak about popularizing science among school children in Sri Lanka to kind of push them to take up science more, be more curious, try and create some world-renowned scientists here in Sri Lanka, one of the main requirements for science is practical experiments. You can't, it's much like swimming. You can't read books about swimming and become a Michael Phelps in the future. You need to get down into the water, do it, try it, see it, feel it. But Professor, you are entrusted with this, Sisyphean task, if you will, to try and promote science in a country that has somewhere between 10 to 15,000 schools. I might be off on the number a bit, but at the end of the day, a good 90% of those schools do not even have access to a science laboratory. Even some of the most popular top-class schools in Colombo even don't really have proper access to scientific laboratories. So I'd like to begin our discussion on, the advancement of science and your role, of course, as the chair of the Committee to Popularize Science in Sri Lanka. How do you do this? How do you get about this massive hurdle that is the lack of infrastructure, the lack of opportunities for students to really understand science?
Yes, Shalan, that's a great question, great place to start with. So, yes, there's a problem that science is always with hands-on, right? So that's like a must. If you do science, you have to do lab work, because science is mainly based on observations, right? So you get the training to observe things. So it can be in the physical world, in the social world, or in the natural world. There are a lot of phenomena that you can observe and be curious about them, and then maybe take notes and follow the phenomena and think logically about them, collect information, think scientifically, make records of your observations, and then analyze them again and come into conclusions. So basically the scientific method. So I explained a few parts in the few components of the scientific method. Now to do that, yes, practicals are a must. It's a must. If you are a science graduate, if you are a science student, you have to have hands-on experience, but not only inside the lab, right? So these skill sets, that's what we want to, empower the students with, the skills. So you don't have to go into a lab and do an experiment all the time. There are many activities that you can do, maybe in your home, right, in your classroom. So now actually we are going towards that, even in the schools. I know the organizations like the Ministry of Education and National Institute of Education, even Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. So we try to find alternative methods because we can't ask for the facilities that we don't have. There are certain facilities that you can't get in Sri Lanka, right, due to the various economical issues and those things. So you can't wait until the government comes and gives you all the facilities to all the schools. So we have to find alternatives. And we have to popularize science also, right? So we can do in like miniature scale. We can do the same sets of experiments sometimes. You need only a small amount of material and not very sophisticated instruments, right? So that's what we are looking at. And mainly the Committee for Popularization of Science, we want the students to, develop those skills of the scientific thinking and scientific method. So for example, can I take an example of an activity that we do? So we have this very popular program called Nature Diaries, right, which has been running since I think late 70s. A very popular program among the school children and school teachers. So the task given to the students is they have to find and observe a natural phenomenon. For example, let's say, okay, a very simple thing might be the development of a butterfly from the early stages. So he follows the
Metamorphosis.
stage, yes,
Okay.
metamorphosis, right? So that can be an interesting phenomenon for a small kid. So he follows every step of it, every day, maybe every hour, I don't know. And then he keeps a log, a diary. That's why we call it nature diaries. So they find a natural phenomenon, observe it, make records, think about it, analyze it, and forms a diary. Right? And we evaluate the diaries. We get very nice diaries actually. Right? So that is one program. So indirectly, we try to through this program, not only to make them interested in science, not only to give the skill set that they will need later as a scientist, but also we want to improve their love for the environment, care for other living beings, right? So they will naturally start thinking along a different line. So they will be trained automatically, so that we hope that they will continue to do that. That observation and reading about it, and be more caring about the environment and whatever around them, right? So that's the basic idea. So you don't have to go to a lab to do that, right? But if you actually go to the advanced level science, you have to of course have hands-on experience. But to get it started, right? I want to tell that you can give the same set of skills even without going into a lab. Because you raised that question of not having the
proper facilities.
Yes.
So if I speak a bit about the committee that you chair, the committee to popularize science here in Sri Lanka, what's the length and breadth of your mandate? Like, do you only focus on school students? When does it start? When does it end? If you could give us a little bit of details on that.
Yes, right. So I'm chairing the committee only for this year, for 2024. So for next year there will be another chairperson. And our main prime focus is the school students, right? So empower them with those skills and natural interest towards science, hoping that they will go into studying more on science and go to a future career in science. Even if not, even if they go to a separate field, those logical, analytical, scientific thinking that they learn by learning science, they will carry that to their, because science is all around us, right, in everyday life. It's shaping our lives. You
can't really escape science.
You can't really escape science. You have to know it. Because all around you is science. Like it can be just talking about climate change. It can be like when you go to grocery store, whether to buy a plastic cup or a paper cup. Right. So that is science. So that's why because our future is our kids. So we want to assuming that they will create a better future. Right. That is why our prime focus is the school children. But not only them, we have different programs for other students like university students, graduate students, undergraduate students, and also general public. Right? We reach the general public through various programs. Like we create YouTube shorts, short videos under 1 minute with a small scientific concept which is relevant to everyday life. Maybe it's about use of plastic or e-waste management, microplastic, pollution, whatever. Short clip so that we can reach to the general public, not only the students. And then we have introduced a new program, a podcast series. Now, a podcast is a kind of a talk show, radio show, but we have the YouTube media, the YouTube channel on SLAS. So we actually have a video cast. So we bring the eminent scientists in the country and talk a little bit about how they came into science, why they are studying in that particular area, what research are they doing. At the same time talk some science about their research field, so that the students mainly they will get inspired by seeing how they came into science, what they are studying, and what future like career paths that will be open to them if they follow in the same area, right? And at the same time we want to educate the general public also through those days.
So, since you mainly spoke about students and school students, is this only limited to government schools, or is it open to schools across the country? How is that?
It is open to any school across the country. On invitation, we can go to any place, right? So, a lot of times it's on invitation that we go. Now, for example, on the 20th of March, we went to Kandy. In Pallekele, we had our first school science day program, which is a signature program of the committee every year. But due to COVID, we couldn't do this as much. For a few years. Last year we started with one. This year we are hoping to do at least 4 or 5. So that was on invitation. It was held in the Slit Candy Uni in Pallekele. So upon their invitation and with the help of the Candy Education Zone, we conducted that program. So likewise, we have invitations from a school in Polonnaruwa and Batticaloa and Beliholduwe. Actually, we have 2 regional chapters of SLA, so they have requested 2 programs. So we actually gather a lot of students from several schools. We are not just doing it for one school. In the region, we gather students from several schools into a central location and design our Science Day program according to their need. Right? So if they want to like have a program on nutrition, we have a special program on that. If they want us to talk about pollution, we focus our program accordingly. So likewise. So mainly to educate the kids about various current topics so that they will get into reading more about them and also making awareness of current issues. So that's what we focus our science programs on. And we have a little fun with the kids also. They have a quiz competition so that they get engaged in the program. Otherwise it will be just passive listening to our lectures. So they actually enjoy it a lot.
So, and these programs organized by the committee to popularize science across Sri Lanka, how long have they been going on for?
Well, I don't have actually the actual date that it was started, so but for a long time. It was a very popular program. The committee was like going all around the country in the pre-COVID time, and they were actually sponsored by several external parties. But all of that came to an end with the COVID and the recession and everything. So we have to now restart. We are reviving actually in this year. Yes.
So, based on what you said, it seems as if the mandate of the committee to popularize science takes a multi-pronged approach, not just focused on creating scientists in Sri Lanka alone, but to create citizens who love the environment, who have analytical thinking, and hopefully would help them in even another discipline that they plan to follow in their future. However, I believe that creating scientists in Sri Lanka must be one of the main goals of the committee to popularize science, or one of the ultimate goals of the committee is to create more scientists in Sri Lanka so that we can engage in more research development and, of course, at the end of the day, keep up with the world. Now, getting opportunities for Sri Lankans to really perfect their art or to practice what they want to do in the future is an important aspect, and we'll continue our discussion on that line after a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The People's Platform.
The People's Platform. TV1. TV for life. Tear gas and water cannons unleashed on university students in 2 separate locations. Sirasa says no court testimony necessary. CID statement already given. Will both presidential and general elections be held on the same day? Ready for a debate with Anura, says Sajid. Sri Lanka climb in World Test Championship standings following series win against Bangladesh. TV1. TV for life. Platform.
Welcome back. You're tuned in to the People's Platform. We're continuing our discussion with Professor Aashani Tillekeratne regarding popularizing science in Sri Lanka. Of course, as we discussed before, one of the ultimate goals is to create good scientists here in Sri Lanka because, of course, we need scientists to progress with the world, to keep up with the world, and to take Sri Lanka that extra mile ahead. Is there any program done by the committee to popularize science in Sri Lanka to really connect up-and-coming scientists, up-and-coming students even? If you identify a student with some sort of potential in a school that you visit during your many programs that you conduct across the island, is there any way that you'll make an attempt to maybe connect them with some mentor, to check up on them every now and again and see that they are given that extra support that they need to make them great scientists?
Yes, Shalan. There's no one program like that, but when we visit to schools, especially through our school science day programs and nature diaries program, we get to engage with the students, we connect with them, right? So they are free to come and talk to us, we make them comfortable to come and talk to us. So there are occasions that they come and express their ideas, express their future ambitions and talk to us to get advice. So we are always contactable. They can always reach us through SLAS, right? We give them our contact information when we go to schools. And especially because you asked about that mentoring part, now the Nature Diaries program, through that we train the teachers also. They are also with us, and we have several other teacher training programs so that we empower them to, guide the students. So through them, they can always connect to us. And when we go for evaluations of these competitions and programs, right, so we see the potential skills and potential abilities of the students so that we can, get them to build up on that, and we are always there for them. They can always connect with SLAS. SLAS is a premier scientific organization with thousands and thousands of professional members in various disciplines, all the disciplines of science, from medical to agriculture to life sciences, physical, chemical, social sciences, computer, everything. There are different sections for each discipline. So those sections also conduct various other programs for students, teachers and community. So they can always reach us. We are reachable. So we are there. If they want help, they can be connected to the correct person if they want to, go along a particular pathway to find their career or higher education, or if any advice they need, yes, they can contact us.
At the end of the day, everybody, studies some sort of discipline in order to make a living. There are, of course, those who do it out of passion, but those people are few and far from many. So when it comes to the general perception about the subject of science and the avenues that are available, at least for a student who is going through the usual school system here in Sri Lanka following the local academic programs, it's you choose the subject of science at your advanced level examination after having, sitting for an examination, the ordinary level examination across all disciplines, and you select science, then you enter university, and the usual perception is, if I do science, I either become a doctor or an engineer, and that's it. But we know that's very far from the truth, and that there are so many different disciplines nowadays. Do you think that there is enough being done to really educate the students in Sri Lanka about what they can really do? Because there may be many students in Sri Lanka who have the potential to be amazing in different disciplines of science, but their talent, their potential is just lost simply due to the lack of information, because they don't know that something like this really exists.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Shalim, because that's a real problem, right? So we have noticed that the students don't know enough about it, teachers don't know enough about it, parents don't know enough about it. I didn't know as a student when I did my A-levels. I knew only, because I did biology, I knew only that I can be a doctor, and that's the end of my life if I can't be a doctor. Right? So that is another intention of these programs. When we go for school science day programs, we have a separate session, a lecture on the opportunities, the avenues that are open for a science student or a science degree holder. What are the challenges they face and what are the opportunities open within the country and also away, right, in the foreign countries. So we need, there's a lack of awareness of that. So it's not only the medical doctor and the engineer. There are a lot of other areas. Okay, I can name a few: pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, mineralogy, right, agriculture, forestry, life sciences, and even quality assurance. Right, it can be like when I say pharmaceuticals, it can be from production to quality assurance to it can be developing packaging materials, right? So food science, sports science, sports medicine, right? So there are a lot of like sub-disciplines, and even if you take medical sciences, it's not only being a doctor. Right, so there are a lot of other avenues that a science graduate can take within this country, because a science graduate is like very well needed in the country, right? And usually they get paid well, right? And even in other countries they can go and find their jobs. They can basically decide which country they want to live in, because there are many opportunities available. Only thing is our general public, general community is not aware of the opportunities available for a science graduate. They think if you can't be a doctor, maybe you can be a science teacher and that's it. I'm not, undermining these jobs, but there are various other opportunities available according to the skills different students have developed and according to their interests. They might not want to work in a lab. They might just want to go to the field and do the work, right? So, yeah, it's like that. So, if you like... if you have that proper skill set of scientific and analytical thinking, if you follow the scientific method, if you have those good observational skills, if you have the analytical and logical thinking, if you can, make sensible decisions about what's happening around you, so there you have a scientist, right?
So one of my final questions to you, because we're in the final few minutes of the show, is maybe a little bit out of the mandate of your committee, but there have been many aspersions cast on the viability of the Sri Lankan education system, how we teach our students, because we have been following this education system, if you will, since free education was introduced to Sri Lanka by CWW Kanangara. We've had very, very small changes in syllabus, a twerk here, maybe a small change over there, but nothing substantial, nothing that would really satisfy the need for Sri Lanka to keep up with the rest of the world. So particularly speaking about the subject of science, since that is of course your field of expertise, how can this system or the standard system of education that is currently in place in Sri Lanka right now be, made more efficient for people or for children especially who show potential in science? Because at the end of the day, you get children maybe who are brilliant in science but who are really bad in, say, for example, their first language or a subject like history. But going through the education system until the age of 16, they will score badly on those subjects, and they will be led to believe that they don't really they aren't really capable, they aren't really smart, they aren't intelligent, and kill their motivation, their happiness to engage in even this subject of science. So any suggestions on how that can be fixed, and is the committee on popularizing science looking into this?
Yes, the committee and also SLAS, the association as a whole with the other sections that I mentioned, we are like into it. We have done several educate the teachers, because they are the ones who are delivering the subject content to the students. So we don't have a problem with the content. I think our science content is great in Sri Lanka. So we can send the students to anywhere in the world and they will do fantastic, because we cover all the basic concepts in science in the content. But it's how you deliver it to the students. So we have to it's not like rote learning. It shouldn't be just memorizing, right? So we have to create that curiosity in their mind through our teaching. So it should be something like an inquiry-based kind of teaching. So in the teacher workshops that we conduct from the Committee for the Popularization of Science and other committees, we try to inculcate that habit of inquiring, within the teachers, because teacher has to be trained first so that he or she can deliver it properly to the student, because it's something that you have to have as a training and until that becomes your practice, right? It takes some time. So through inquiry-based learning, we can avoid that memorization part, but at the same time we cover the content through a very interesting...
and instead of getting them to memorize, you get them to understand it.
To understand it, maybe by observing something, maybe by doing a practical, right, a hands-on activity. So those are the things that we have to, but it takes time. You can't do it overnight. You have to take some time and get them to digest that method into their head and practice it, and then it will be a habit of teaching and learning. Yeah.
But I mean, I remember even during the time that I was in school, it was always, this memorizing exams, and sometimes the moment you write your exam, you just delete everything that you memorized because you have to memorize for the subject that comes afterwards, and you don't really have space in your head. So is that procedure according to, in the various methods that are available to teach science, is that one of the more viable methods, or is that just an age-old method that we Sri Lankans are finding it very hard to give up?
In science there are certain things that you have to remember, right? Certain basic things that will carry on the entire learning process. But the other concept, most of the science concepts, they are based on logical thinking. So you don't really have to memorize the things and keep it in your head until the exam and then delete it to for the other set. So that is why it's very important to find the correct way of teaching it, so that through the inquiry-based teaching or problem-based teaching, you don't feel like you are memorizing things, and through the activities it goes into your head, because it's like when you read and try to remember, there's a limit, right?
Okay.
But if you actually do something, you will remember what you did, and through that you can come back to the concept, right? So that example that will always be in your head. Like, for example, if you are developing, let's say, if you want to develop a cure for a blind person, or a more feasible method for a blind person to find something in the room, right? You have to walk into their shoes and do it, then you will feel it. And at the same time, when you are doing it, when you are developing something, you have to read about it. You have to read about the physiology of the eye, how it is made of, what are the components, how do they function, how do you see, what is the physics of seeing, right? So then automatically the kid will learn all the science, but he or she won't feel that he is memorizing anything. And that activity they will remember for their life, and they will actually enjoy it. So we have to, I think, go maybe not for all the lessons, but at least for some lessons, if we can start with. I think that's
an important step in the right direction. Thank you very much, Professor Tillekeratne, the chairman of the Committee for the Popularization of Science in Sri Lanka from the Sri Lanka Association of Advancement for Science, for joining us on the People's Platform, and of course explaining the importance of science and contributing to that daunting task of popularizing science here in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in to another episode of the People's Platform. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.